If you've been to Japan, you've probably heard this noise. Family Mart, 7-Eleven, Lawson, and more are central to Japanese life. The convenience store model seems to have been perfected in Japan. They're practically on every city block or small town center. You walk into these clean, bright spaces and have access to tasty food and drinks. Yum. But it doesn't just stop there. These convenience stores, or konbini, are problem solvers. Need a pen and notebook for a meeting or interview? They got you. Need a nice umbrella or poncho? A simple gachapon toy to brighten your day. Socks, but not just socks. These are kind of the best socks you've ever owned. And the food is there for you at truly any stage of hunger. Whether you're starving for a nice hearty breakfast, need a quick jolt of energy from coffee or an energy drink, or just need a little treat to get through the day, the konbini has high quality eats no matter what time of day or state of mind you may be in. I clearly have what many scholars call Thing Japan disorder, or something like that. When I experience a convenience store in America, it's generally pretty dull. Unless it's a Wawa or Sheetz, which I will stand by any day. But when I went to Japan recently, I felt utterly euphoric in these everyday stores. There's something super special about them, and that's exactly what I'm here to talk about and more. And before I get started, Dano here would like to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe for more content about Japan from your pal Dan and his pal Dano. Today I'm going to uncover what makes konbinis the world's greatest convenience stores, and I'm going to explore how this originally American concept was perfected in Japan.
Let's get started.
It's unclear when the exact first convenience store opened in Japan, but many speculate it was around the year 1969. After the Second World War, Japan had several decades of rapid growth. As they rebuilt their country, city by city, millions moved to Tokyo, Osaka, Fukuoka, and more. These urban booming areas were incredibly dense population-wise. New train systems, bike paths, and sidewalks made these places commuter and local friendly. Having a car and place to park it was increasingly rare. This was a huge opportunity to cater to millions of metropolitan Japanese citizens. Shopping centers, department stores, and more began opening, threatening small businesses and creating a lane for political change. In 1973, the Japanese government passed the Large-Scale Store Act, which required any business that had more than 16,145 square feet to be approved by a local committee. And who sat on these committees? Local business owners, who often blocked these larger stores from coming into their neighborhood and disrupting their business and way of life. This hurt supermarket conglomerates hoping to break into these growing urban areas. Their leadership looked to America for solutions, specifically Texas. An Ito Yokado executive visited Dallas and had an epiphany while staring at a 7-Eleven. Their convenience store size is how he could get around the Large-Scale Store Act. Tiny grocery stores, no more than 5,000 square feet, were perfect for Japanese streets. After struggling to get the Southland Corporation to take them seriously, Ito Yokado succeeded. The first 7-Eleven in Japan opened in Toyosu, Koto City, Tokyo. But the store wasn't an immediate success. Many thought it was a little bit too foreign and wasn't a great fit for the Japanese way of life. Copying and pasting retail practices from the United States wasn't going to work in Japan. They focused on two key aspects in the store that helped them succeed: stocking and liquor. Stores were kept spotless and well-stocked. People realized they could rely heavily upon it, no matter what they needed at any time of the day. Many of the first franchisees were operated by liquor store owners, who also found success as a place individuals and wholesalers could acquire alcohol. After a few years of figuring out how to best fit 7-Eleven into Japanese life, it soon thrived and competition ensued.
7-Eleven!
いらっしゃいませ。こんな時、困った時、おいでください。セブンイレブン。朝7時から夜遅くまで年中無休でお付き合い。セブンイレブン。いい気分。
Today in Japan, there are three main players in the konbini universe: 7-Eleven, Lawson, and Family Mart, as well as Daily Yamazaki, Mini Stop, Seiko Mart, and many more. But I'll mainly be focusing on the first three I mentioned, starting with 7-Eleven. Now, 7-Eleven was founded in 1927 in Dallas, Texas. Back then, they were known as Southland Ice Company. In 1946, they changed their name to 7-Eleven to reflect their hours from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. The brand is a trailblazer in the convenience store category. They were the first to put coffee in to-go cups, first to run their stores 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the first to have self-serve soda fountains. Plus, they popularized both the Big Gulp and the Slurpee. icons of the liquid holding universe. In 1973, Ito Yokado brought 7-Eleven to Japan, where it eventually went on to thrive. It was run somewhat separately under the 7-Eleven Japan subsidiary, a company with a better lens on how to adapt 7-Eleven to the Japanese consumer. American 7-Eleven are often a roadside stop or standalone next to a gas station. They're a parallel to the car culture that has permeated America since the advent of the highway, whereas Japanese 7-Eleven are more directed at the on-the-move city slicker. In 1987, the stock market crash known as Black Monday impacted 7-Eleven severely. After a few years of bankruptcy, debt, and struggle, Ito Yokado and 7-Eleven Japan stepped in with a $430 million cash infusion. They now own 70% of the business, eventually becoming 100% owners in 2005. Today, the parent company is known as 7-I Holdings. Personally, I feel like they should have kept the 7-Eleven branding at all the stores, but these 7-I Holdings signs are literally all over Japan.
多分こんな感じ。
ローソンから唐揚げくん新発売。
Moving on to Lawson, hard to believe, but this big Japanese chain began with one store in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio in 1939. J.J. Lawson expanded beyond his dairy plant, opening stores across Ohio. Lawson was a typical convenience store selling drinks, eggs, some deli items, and snacks. It was called Lawson's Milk Company, and their brand heritage can be seen with the milk carton in their brand iconography. In 1959, Lawson was acquired by parent company Consolidated Foods, and you don't like your foods consolidated, you don't like food. After 7-Eleven was brought to Japan, other supermarket chains wanted in on the convenience store action. So Daiei signed a formal agreement with Consolidated Foods to bring Lawson to Japan. The first store opened in Toyonaka, Osaka, Japan a year later. The successful brand eventually expanded across Asia and now boasts over 11,000 stores, including stores in each of Japan's 47 prefectures. They're part owned by Mitsubishi Corp, Japan's largest trading company, and KDDI.
今ミクラブズファミマキャンペーンやってます。
あなたとコンビニファミリーマート。
And now let's talk about Family Mart, the second largest of the Japanese convenience store giants. It was actually the only one of the three that was founded in Japan. The first Family Mart opened in Sayama, Saitama, Japan in 1973. It was called Family Mart because the customers, franchisees, and head office formed a family-like relationship. Family Mart rode the wave of convenience stores in Japan through the late 70s and 80s, and today there are over 24,000 Family Marts across Asia. They tried to expand into the United States in the early 2000s, but failed to really capture the American consumer. They called the store Famima and had completely different branding than the typical green, white, and blue they feature across Japan. They're well known for their jingle that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, called Melody Chime Number 1 Daiseikyu. Created by Japanese consumer tech company Panasonic, which brings me to our next major talking point. The convenience store experience in Japan is just better. It's just better, it is better. From the moment you enter them, they knock 99% of American convenience stores out of the water. Trust me. They're better temperature controlled. They have better lighting, more appetizing food, and a generally more approachable atmosphere. I've been to a ton of convenience stores across the United States, the bodegas of New York, the Wawas of Philadelphia, or even the Sheetz of Western Pennsylvania. They all bring a different flavor of American needs and values, like large on-the-go food and drinks, tobacco, gas, and handy car tools for the average traveler. But that's just the thing. Outside of cities, American convenience stores stand alone, only to be reached by getting in a car and driving to them. Which means they aren't as tightly woven into the communities they inhabit. In Japan, it feels like there's a convenience store on every corner. This means they're always on the way to where you're going. Whether you're getting to work early, out late with friends, or about to take a big trip out of the city. The Japanese convenience store model is about filling in the gaps in your day, solving quick problems with simple solutions, and providing decent quality products at low prices. No matter what micro-specific neighborhood you're in, you can go to a Lawson, 7-Eleven, or Family Mart and pretty much find exactly what you need without having to search too hard. 7-Elevens in the United States have a liminal, almost bizarre quality about them, especially after the hours of midnight. Trust me. You walk past a defunct Redbox machine while shadowy figures toke on cigs like their life depended on it. Also, they're smoking like super close to where people are pumping gas. Don't really want a Zoolander situation happening here. You enter a place that smells like a mix of cooking grease and cleaning bleach. Yum? The fluorescent lights not only have a glare, but a noise that clangs from them. They're a bit too big for what they really need to be, and they're all laid out completely differently. You pick out a tried and true drink and snack, pay at the register, and move on. Doesn't provide much joy, satisfaction, and often has left me feeling off or confused. I don't know, could just be me. I know I have that Thing Japan meme stuck in my head, but before I went to the country, these stores were hyped up to me so much. Once I got there, I was expecting to be let down, but I was actually more entranced by these stores once I experienced them for myself in both Tokyo and Kyoto. I could tell you all of the delicious food I had at the numerous konbini across Japan, but before I get to that, I want to talk about how these places stock the shelves and keep fresh food ready for people on such a regular basis. It all starts with the Japanese idea of Tanpen Kanri, an item management system that pays attention to the fine details of customer buying preferences and how they are carried in each individual store. In America, the same categorical name brand food will be at pretty much every 7-Eleven across the country for the most part. But in Japan, they utilize shop by shop and even item by item data that allows them to perfectly stock each specific store, no matter where they are. And by the way, most konbini receive food shipments up to 4 to 5 times a day, compared to 1 to 2 times a day in America. More deliveries, more fresh food, more curated variety. As I've mentioned before, American convenience stores rely heavily on gas and tobacco sales, which are currently both in states of decline. With more electric cars on the road and less people smoking in favor of vaping or using Zyn, they too are looking to Japan for information on how to sell food in a more user-friendly and successful way. If they don't, it could spell major economic issues for them in the future. Anyways, here are some of my favorite things that I got in konbini across Japan. Sandwiches. These little sandwiches are undefeated. The pillowy soft white bread, the flavorful but not overpowering salty or sweet insides. If you don't have time for a real meal, these will do the job. Personally, I'm an egg salad guy, but I've heard the pork cutlet goes crazy as well. Onigiri. There's something so satisfying about the feeling of holding a nice solid little onigiri. I always mess up the unwrapping of these, but still enjoy them regardless. It's the perfect little in-between meal filler for when you're hungry but don't want to overdo it. Really good for a quick hit of protein. Japanese candy isn't as insanely sweet as American candy, and it typically is more centered around a unique flavor. Some of my favorites include their unique takes on Kit Kats, Crunky, which I guess is like a crunch bar, sort of, and these little chocolate mushrooms. I also wanted to touch on one final aspect of konbini, the people that work in them. Clearly, since there are tens of thousands of konbini in Japan, they have to be a huge source of employment across the country. Naturally, these jobs don't pay well and the hours are generally long, boring, and monotonous. All that being said, there are a couple important aspects of these jobs. They're a source of employment for new immigrants to Japan, which has a reputation for not being the easiest place to immigrate to. In fact, over 80,000 immigrants in Japan are reported to work at konbini. These stores can be a place for people to learn the language, interact with a lot of people throughout the day, and stay busy and employed. But not everything is rosy about working here. They have a huge range of tasks beyond simply stocking the shelves and running the cash register. They keep these stores extremely clean compared to the amount of foot traffic they receive. They often need to properly prepare food, mail packages, sell concert tickets, and deal with unruly, unhappy customers. Plus, the tens of thousands of konbini are run by different managers who all can make or break the experience. Many also feel like konbini workers are unsung heroes of their neighborhood. They may not get accolades and immediate appreciation, but across Japan, many think they're the backbone of the community. As they work long hours, holidays, they're on their feet, often with a positive spirit despite the low pay. Well, I hope you now realize why konbini, Japanese convenience stores, are elite. From their differing beginnings to powerful consumer foothold in modern-day Japan. To end this video, I have a couple quick fun facts about konbini that I found during my research that I thought I'd share right here. There's actually a Dragon Quest-themed Lawson in Akihabara, Tokyo, filled with Dragon Quest characters, merch, and more. Some Lawson are brown instead of their typical blue and white because local rules don't allow shops of that color. Slurpees are extremely rare in 7-Elevens in Japan. Because the drinks never really took off there, you're gonna have a hard time finding a Slurpee machine. Konbini also often serve as a local lost and found. Let's say someone loses their ID or a personal item, people often bring it to the cashier at the closest konbini. Alrighty, that is gonna do it for me. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content about Japan from your pal Dan. I'm Dan, this is Dano, this is Bruno. We will catch you next time.